Hello everyone, as we're continuing the Ghostbusters retrospective reviews, we're on to the next one called Ghostbusters Afterlife, as we're building up towards Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, so let's get into it. Now, before we talk about the movie, before we dive into the spoiler aspects of the movie, just want to say this was such a huge, monumental movie in terms of the respect and the legacy of the character Egon, who's played by Harold Ramis. And honestly, what they did with this movie, what they did with him, I just thought was such a nice touch. So first of all, rest in peace, Harold. And in terms of the whole YouTube stuff, if you are new to the channel, you do like these types of videos because we're going to be ranking the Ghostbusters movies tier ranking style. So if you like that type of stuff, do consider hitting that subscribe button, smash that like button, all that YouTube stuff. Because with Ghostbusters Afterlife, this one coming out a couple of years ago, back in 2021, 31 years after the sequel, 31 years after Ghostbusters 2, and honestly, this was a breath of fresh air. It was just so great seeing the Ghostbusters movie once again here, especially with the old cast reuniting. You got a lot of nostalgia in there. Granted, you can say that there was a lot of pandering to the old fans, throwing in a lot of Easter eggs, throwing in a lot of nostalgia baiting, that kind of stuff, but I think this was kind of balanced well, because let's start off with the movie, because the movie kicks off with somebody that's in a van. We come to find out that it's actually Egon, but you don't really get to see his face because of outside circumstances, because of obvious reasons, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video. But this character, so Egon, is getting chased in this van by this spirit. He manages to drive all the way back to the farm, which is going to be his farm, as we come to find out later on in the movie. We come to see that he's got this trap all set up, all laid up, but obviously there's not enough power, so the trap fails. He ends up going inside his house, where it looks like he's about to be taken. He manages to escape, only to come to find out that he's actually died of a heart attack in the movie. So I think that was a nice way to just pay homage to the character, to the actor, but also do it in a respectful manner way in terms of he's getting killed off in the movie. So not an off-screen type of kill, but a way where you're not seeing his face or him not having to speak or anything like that. And so that's when we get introduced to the family, the Spengler family. So you got the mum and you got the boy and the girl, which honestly, Finn Wolfhard and Makona Grace, I think they did a fantastic job, especially Makona Grace in terms of her playing the granddaughter of Egon. I think she was one of the standouts in this movie. We come to find out that they're basically being evicted because she's not able to come up with the cash, so she's having to move into Egon's farmhouse, which is basically known as Dirt Farm by everyone in town. And that's where we get our first cameo, our first Easter egg. So you've got the return of Janine, which that honestly just put a smile on my face, just seeing Janine in the movie, just seeing her and just that iconic voice. She's basically confirming that the house is pretty much worthless. Egon didn't really value the house. There's not much he left for the family or anything like that. And then even throughout the movie itself, throughout the whole movie, you're kind of indicating how much of Egon didn't really care about the family, kind of insulting him and everything like that, which kind of towed the line a little bit, I'll have to say, especially given what happened with the actor himself. So you get the return of Janine, which is the first Easter egg, the first cameo that you'll see in the movie. And then you also throw in another little Easter egg. So you've got Mike Wolfhard, so he's wandering around the house in the middle of the night with his phone. He ends up going to the garage, where he unveils something under the hood, which you see is a Ghostbusters car, but the sign, you slightly see it, and only for his phone to die. So that's kind of hinting small little Easter eggs there. Obviously we do get a big reveal afterwards, but we'll talk about that in a second. And when it comes to Mike Wolfhard's character, his development, he likes this girl at this cafe with roller skates and stuff like that, this diner, I guess you can say. He's interested in her, so he ends up getting a job lying about his age, claiming that he's 17 when he's actually 15, working and just following her around, her and her friends. And then we also see what Phoebe's up to, the little girl. So she's enrolled in this summer camp or summer school, where we get introduced to Paul Rudd's character, Gary Gruberman. Fantastic name, I've got to say. So his method of teaching is basically just playing movies for these kids with the VHS style. So the first movie he plays is Cujo by Stephen King, and then the next movie, which honestly I cheered hard for, was Child's Play, the first Child's Play. You get the third act with the mum and Chucky going at it. That honestly made me smile so much. And we also get introduced to our underrated character called Podcast. Love the name, love the character, love his lines in the movie. He was such a great addition to the cast. So as the movies are being played, you get to see Phoebe, you get to see her intelligence, her Egon knowledge, or her Egon brain that she's inherited, where she and Paul Rudd's character talk about seismology. Just goes to show how much I understand that, because I can't even say the bloody word. But they're talking about geology, seismology, volcanoes, earthquakes, all that kind of stuff basically. And that's later on in the night where she's discovering piece of equipment from Egon's Ghostbuster lifestyle. So she finds that little trap that was used by Egon earlier on in the opening sequence, and then also finds in the floorboard you've got the Ghostbuster trap, like the ghost trap that you get in every single movie of Ghostbusters there. So a nice little nod to that. Great to see that trap. Honestly, even just a small trap like that just put a smile on my face. Which she brings it to the school the next day, where you've got Podcast, you've got Paul Rudd's character, and you've got her trying to open up this trap in the parking lot, where they end up doing it using the school bus car battery, and then that demon just comes flying out, breaking all the glass, releasing what Egon captured in the opening sequence of the movie. And again, while that's going on, you've got Mike and his potential girlfriend going into like these mines areas, so you're just getting little hints of who the villain's going to be, because you've got like little hints of those guard dogs that you get in the very first movie. We're getting hints that it's going to be Gozer. Gozer's going to be returning, the villain from the very first movie. So all these little hints are going to be sprinkled throughout the movie, with Trevor and his girl research that Podcast is doing with Phoebe. And then once again, Phoebe also discovers the proton pack. So this spirit, which was assuming is going to be Egon, is like Ghost. He helped Phoebe fix the proton pack. Her and Podcast go to try and test it out, and that's where they hear like a noise in a warehouse, where they follow, and that's where we get our ghost called Muncher. Kind of disappointed we didn't get to see Slimer in the movie, but I really enjoyed Muncher as a character too. So they try to trap Muncher. He ends up escaping, so they're going after him. Meanwhile, you've got Trevor finally unveiling the classic Ghostbusters car. He ends up trying to drive it, and that's where he picks up Podcast and Phoebe, and they go on this chase sequence throughout town trying to capture Muncher the ghost. So you get this great sequence of the car chase. We finally get to see all these little features that are in the car. So you've got this where the door opens and you've got Phoebe coming out trying to capture Muncher. You've got this little ramp inside where you've got this ghost trap RC type of car going in to try and capture the ghost. My only criticism when it comes to this section is I loved seeing all these new features in the Ghostbusters car, because we didn't really get to explore that in the original movies. But my thing is that these characters, you're kind of throwing in and shoehorning them in there where they're trying to be the Ghostbusters. But with this being the first time, like how they're using the proton packs, how they're able to like get all these features accessed and unlocked in the car, that kind of just felt really forced. Like I wish there was more of a challenge, because it seems just so easy for them, even though they've never done this before. That's my only criticism when it comes to like these certain sequences is that you're getting these characters to be able to know how to use these things without any issues, without any trouble or anything like that, making them look like they've been Ghostbusters for all their lives. But that's just like a minor nitpick, because the shit show that this turns into when they finally do capture the ghost is that they end up getting arrested, and that's where we meet the sheriff, who's being played by Bokeem Woodbine. So it was great to see him. He even said that line, "Who you gonna call?" which great little nostalgia in there. Like as soon as he said it, I remember that meme of he said the line, so that was great to see. But while they are in prison, Phoebe gets her phone call. She ends up actually contacting Ray, so we get to see Ray coming back into the movie, and so he kind of explains what happened between everybody. So since the second movie, ghost sightings were kind of like a rare thing, and he explains what everybody's gone up to. So we find out that Ernie has become the richest out of all of them. Peter's off doing his own thing. They had like an argument when it comes to Egon, because Egon saw Gozer coming back, so he kind of just up and left, ditched them, all of that kind of stuff. So we kind of got Ray explaining it rather than seeing it, which I would have preferred, like sort of maybe flashback sequences or like a little montage of that, rather than just having Ray just tell us what happened. We also come to find out some plot holes when it comes to the fire station, because Ray's phone call, he mentions that the fire station has turned into a Starbucks. Only for the post-credit scene or the end credit scene, we actually do see the fire station. So some weird little plot holes when it comes to that, but obviously again minor nitpicks. But it was just great to see Ray back in the fold again. And so the mum comes and picks up the kids after her day gets interrupted with Gary. And what I really liked is that despite them basically shitting on Egon throughout the whole movie and like calling him an asshole, calling him different type of names, you do get that great build up to then this sequence where the sheriff Bokeem basically insults Egon once again, and that's when Phoebe gets so angry that she picks up the proton pack about to shoot him. I love that sequence. That was a nice build-up and a well paid off scene. But with this all happening as we're building up towards the third act, so you've got Gary going to Walmart shopping, getting some ice cream. That's where he sees the classic Marshmallow Man, but they're in tiny versions. So they're spreading around shopping at Walmart, and what's so great is that you're getting them inside the blender, like they're blending each other up, they're turning each other into s'mores, they're roasting each other on the barbecue, like they're basically melting and killing each other off, which I found so unusual. And then we get the dog that you see in the first movie, so it's basically like a replica of what happened in the first movie happening now. So Gary, Paul Rudd's character, turning into the Keymaster, getting chased by the dog. And that's when the kids realize what's going on. So they go back to the mine. They realize that Gozer is trying to come back. We actually see that Egon has set up traps in the mine, in that lair of Gozer. So you've got these traps, these proton packs blasting anytime somebody's trying to like come out from this demon wall hole thingy that they've got going on there. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, now you've got the mum doing an impression of Dana from the first movie, saying that she is Zool and she's basically being possessed a similar way in terms of how Dana was in the very first movie. This is the same happening with her. But when they go back to the house, they see that happening. They see that she's being possessed. Gary goes to the mine. He ends up destroying the proton defense system that Egon has built to release Gozer. Gozer is now back. And so then you've got, similar to like Louis and Dana in the first movie, turning into dogs, you've got Paul Rudd's character and the mum turning into dogs with Gozer. And while Phoebe is trying to distract Gozer, you've got Podcast running in behind trying to trap Gozer using the ghost trap, and they use it on the mum too. So like the mum is able to turn back into human form. Gozer sort of gets trapped, but you see like a different version of him. They run back into the house because they realize that Egon's house, the farmhouse, is a trap for the ghosts. So they end up trying to go back inside the house. Once again, the trap fails because there's not enough electricity. And so as they're trying to use the proton packs to try and boost electricity, the marshmallows start munching on these proton packs. The trap once again fails. Trevor's girlfriend turns into the dog, and it looks like Gozer's about to win. It looks like Gozer's about to destroy them, only for the original cast, the classic Ghostbusters, to return. And that just was such a huge smile on my face. You get that classic line too of "Are you a god?" only for Ray to then say yes this time when he didn't say it in the first time. So it was such a great nod to the original movie. So they end up shooting, like they end up trying to do what they did in the first movie. They cross streams to try and beat Gozer. That doesn't work. You then get Phoebe shooting her proton pack and Gozer blasting each other, sort of like this Dragon Ball Z sequence that you get, only for the ghost of Egon to show up to help Phoebe. And this was such a nice moment. And honestly, I don't know how they did it, whether it was completely CGI or whether it was an actor that looks like Egon. Like, I'm honestly not sure, but they honestly respected it and made it look so amazing at the same time. But just seeing Egon help Phoebe, and then you've got the original 4 Ghostbusters working together, just such a nice moment, and really was done absolutely phenomenal. So they all start shooting with the proton packs, and then that causes enough electricity to then use the original trap that Egon set up to get all the ghosts, all the demons, Gozer all inside the ghost trap to finally win and defeat Gozer once and for all. And then again, this amazing moment with like Egon. So like, you don't get to see any speaking terms, which I think actually made it more better with Egon. So you see the original cast acknowledging Egon, they've made their differences, and then you get the mum reuniting or rekindling with Egon as well. So just a beautiful moment with all of these characters with no speaking lines from Egon, which again, fantastic touch. I think it just worked really, really well. And so that basically ends Egon's story in the Ghostbusters franchise as he goes off and splits into like atoms or stars or whatever it is going off into the sky. So that I just think was a really, really nice tribute, a nice touch to the actor who played Egon. And that just closes out the movie. But then you get the 2 post-credit scenes. So you've got the post-credit scene of Bill Murray getting the experiment from, like, it was a nod from the first movie. So you've got Bill Murray's character getting the experiment that he did where he's zapping the guy and not the girl. Only this time around, it's actually Sigourney Weaver's character electrocuting him for getting any cards incorrect. So that was like a really nice touch for like those hardcore, like original OG fans of Ghostbusters, which I really, really liked. And then you got the end credit scene where we come to find out that Ernie Hudson, who again is the most successful one out of all of them, he's buying the original lighthouse with Ghostbusters. Looks like they're going to be opening up the Ghostbusters once again, working on the car, reuniting all of that. So basically what's going to happen in Frozen Empire with the Ghostbusters, confirming that they are going to be returning. So that was just a nice little post-credit scene there. So just overall, honestly, a great balance between, for me personally, between nostalgia and moving the plot forward. Some great little Easter eggs in there. A bit weak in terms of like the first act, in terms of like the slow build up to it. But then overall, the movie just was so enjoyable. What I wanted from a Ghostbusters movie, mixing the old and the new together. And I hope that with the new one, Frozen Empire, you do get more of like the plot moving forward and not focusing in on the nostalgia or the Easter eggs, that kind of stuff, and just have it, you've done all of that in this movie, now focus on like the future and the story moving forward. But with the new cast, fantastic job what they did with that. So overall, a really enjoyable movie. Definitely better than the sequel. Not as strong as the original, but a really, really enjoyable watch nonetheless. So if you've seen the movie, what are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comment section below. Did you enjoy it? Do you like it? What are your thoughts about all the nostalgia and the Easter eggs? How well balanced do you think it was? Please let me know down in the comment section below. But that about wraps it up for this review. Keep an eye out because the next one's going to be the Frozen Empire review. Most likely going to be a blend of non-spoiler and spoiler once I do check it out. And then there's going to be obviously that tier ranking video. So keep an eye out on the channel, subscribe so you're not missing out on that. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.